Hello, this is a message to Google. Recently, because of an unfortunate event in New Zealand, in which a man recorded something that he did which was horrendous, and then he put it immediately onto where he did. I don't know which media put it on, I don't know. He live streamed it apparently. Now, the Australian government is in up in arms and carrying on like he wants to take control over Google, and it also wants to it's thread or will jail Google or Facebook's representatives and threaten them with that if they don't comply with whatever direction they want. Well, this is the same government, same people, the ALP and the Liberals Party in Australia, who recently banned David Icke from coming to Australia, a harmless man who contributes to entertainment, if you like, on YouTube, and does not want any harm. I mean, you can take notice of him if you want to or not. The point is they banned him and saw him as some sort of threat to them, and I can't quite work out how he's a threat to them. The point is, that's not the point. The point is, these people are into censorship. If they can get away with it, they would ban YouTube altogether. If these people get away with it, they would have total control over everything that was published in Australia. Unfortunately, because we have YouTube, this amazing thing, it's out of their control, and we're very fortunate to have that because there's no guarantee of freedom of speech in Australia. And regardless of how this country likes to portray itself, the speech it has may be free, but it does have no philosophy, it has no analysation, and there's no sort of general explanation in any scientific or rational sense about almost anything. So it has a free speech, but a free speech that basically says nothing. It doesn't actually give a reason for what they do or any policy, and it makes up a reason, which is usually to cover other reasons. But that's beside the point. The point is, if the Australian government, like any government in the world, began to censor the media, the world media, global media, if you like, the global media, the global media, which is Google, which is the greatest event in communication history, as far as I can see, because it allows everyone a voice. Once they start to control this, which they'd love to, they keep asking and suggesting amongst within the media that they want to start censoring and eliminating what they call fake news, which is very, very odd because most of the news you read about is fake and made up stories to present an ideological view or a political view or a corporate view of the world. Is very rarely is the view presented that is impartial or philosophical or analysed in any rational sense that does tell the complete story, not just the story they want to tell, which is basically a little bit of data thrown in with an awful lot of noise, and most of it's meaningless. And this is the problem without YouTube, without YouTube, there would be a deficit of information in the world right now, and it's like a contradictory to what there is in effect available, because all the knowledge in the universe basically is now just about all available thankfully through Google, and I worship Google myself. I think it's absolutely brilliant, and it's all the knowledge we have about evolution, about anything you can think of, about anything to do with politics, anywhere in the political field or the world or anywhere about the world, you can find on Google. And there are things you can find about the Australian government on Google which they might not like at all, because there are certain truths about them they would not like to be revealed in the public through the normal media, when the normal media has never ever told the public the actual truths about the Australian government. Australian political parties. Never, ever alert to the public what's actually going on there. So, and this is the problem. They're now on the sort of run, if you like. They're on the nose with the electorate. And they want to sort of act reactive all the time in the loo because, oh, we have to react like this because the Muslims are involved. Now, whether the Muslims are involved or not is irrelevant. Controlling the media is what these people want and desire to do. They may use Muslims again as a means to put further control on society, in other words, or an attack on Muslims as further control means to try and censor and control other media. Like they control basically in some extent the professional media, let's say, is controlled to some extent the corporate media, but the Google media, which is everyone's media, we can all publish our own stories like this. We'll all come be our own editors, rough or whatever it is. This is the real today's greatest evolution in media in human history. It's the greatest single evolution, and to allow politicians to take us back to the dark ages, which they would like to do, which goes along with their dark age policies, their dark age economic policies. They're degrading economic policies, degrading their values in society with their economic policies, because they degrade the value of language itself. And if it wasn't for the YouTube or Google and other media, so we can explain things, we can have a philosophy, if you like, we can get back to Western values or traditional values of all societies, our philosophy, rationalise and analyse and try to work things out to create an understanding. But the thing is about this Australian government, they don't actually practice free speech themselves, between themselves, and they would prefer it if society never said things that it doesn't want other people to want to hear, because it banned David Icke, because he thought David Icke may have said something they don't want people to hear, and they belled the cat. In doing they did that, they belled the cat and said, hey, we are into censorship, we are into control, we're one step away from re-education camps or whatever it is they want to do with anyone, and threaten to jail Google operatives is the same thing in itself. That threat itself is like a re-education in itself, the same sort of thing. Don't do it or we'll put you in jail. There's the same thing as a re-education, but without much sophistication with it. What do? You jail an executive from Google. What's the gain out of that? That's to be the worst, one of the worst moments in Western history, when Western governments are starting to threaten people to jail people for what happens on the media. Let Google delete things that it finds are unpalatable and let them decide and keep politicians out of it, because Google is a global system, not an Australian system. And if we're going to have globalization, there needs to be Google so that we can actually interact as a global people and learn to understand each other this way. No matter what, some things are distasteful. So some things are horrible and distasteful. Some things are shocking and horrible. But the point of it, somebody shooting a bunch of people is so shocking, I have no idea why people want to watch such a thing. I don't personally. But nonetheless, so shocking that someone can do that. In itself is a warning to people. That's what happens when you oppress people so much and oppress the news so much, which it has done in the West. That's one of the results of it. A bloke went nuts and shot some people in New Zealand because he knows the press and the politicians and major media have oppressed so much of what's happening in the world because of fear of offending Muslims. And that's what it's mostly about. And if Muslims want to live amongst us like we need to move amongst them, well, we have to deal with each other's differences in a more compassionate way. And then there won't be these ructions and these terrible things that happen between different cultures, a clash of cultures, and that's what it is, a clash of cultures. But we can't have media censorship by politicians in the Western Hemisphere, because that is the end of the West. And that's partly what the Australian governments are partly involved in, is slowly and slowly eradicating Western values, whether they like to hear that or not, because the Western values are based on philosophy, science, rational explanation, analytical observations, insight, and rational objective explanations. And that's what, once you start one step, you start censoring the media, give control of the censorship of the media just one bit. Give them an inch of rope and they'll take a mile and they'll strangle the free speech altogether if they can get away with it. So I appeal to Google, stand up to these people. Do not let them threaten you with jail because something happened that was beyond your control. That's just reactionary. It's not right. It's not even reasonably intelligent, and it certainly doesn't show leadership. It shows fear, an inability to actually speak in plain English, and that's basically what the problem is in this country, Australia. These people hardly ever speak in plain English amongst themselves, and then hardly ever speak in plain English towards the public. And it's a serious breakdown of communication in itself, that they then fear what may be published may cause offence. Far greater offence that politicians want to control the media is something to fear to a far greater level than anything else, than what happens on the media.